You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.
3, 2, 1, 0.
What's up, gang? Welcome back to the Hali Tiki Room. We are here live on Recliner Sports. Habs After Dark, Episode 3. Ottawa Senators and the Montreal Canadiens. A big victory by the Canadiens this evening. Big 4-1 win. The Canadiens finally ran into a team that was sort of on their own level, and they were able to play the type of game that they're capable of. Of course, they already had the one win over Toronto, but I think we will all admit that win, I don't want to say that they didn't deserve it, but they certainly didn't have the majority of the play in that game. However, tonight they came up against a team they should be competing against. This is a team that they will have to beat if they want to have a chance to make the playoffs. This is one of those teams that they are in direct competition with: Ottawa, Buffalo, Detroit, teams like that. And they came out and they proved that they can play with this team, and in fact, they can beat this team. And I thought they looked pretty impressive from beginning to end. And I think that we're going to go right into the box score. We're going to talk about the box score immediately. Then we'll get some thoughts on the game, and then we'll work our way through some of the other things. So let's go to the box score here. What do we have here? We have the Montreal Canadiens, their first goal from Emil Heineman in the first period. Let's go see what I have in my notes here. Again, an unbelievable play by Lane Hutson here. I know. The rest of the league is probably tired of hearing Montreal Canadiens fans talk about Lane Hutson. But realistically, the kid is a hell of a hockey player, right? The kid is really, really, really good. I don't think you're going to have us stop talking about him anytime soon just because he is that good. So in this particular play, the goal by Heineman, Hutson gets the puck in his own end. He's able to gain the zone all by himself. He's on the power play, second unit of the power play. Hutson is still on the second unit, despite what many Montreal Canadiens fans might think about that. He gains the zone all by himself, doesn't need any help, gets into the zone. He ends up with the puck almost all the way behind the net. He coughs up the puck a little bit to Dvorak. Dvorak picks up the puck, feeds it in front to Emil Heineman for the first goal of his NHL career. Heineman buries it. Again, another power play goal for Montreal. That's 3 power play goals in 3 games. The power play has not looked amazing just yet, but certainly 3 goals in 3 games is an unbelievable improvement on the preseason and an improvement on last year. And things certainly look really, really good from the from the point of view of the power play. The Canadiens then make it 2-0 later in the period. Cole Caulfield with his 3rd goal in 3 games. Again, Caulfield getting back to being that goal-scoring star that we all hope that he'll become. This is, like I said, his 3rd goal in 3 games, and an amazing shot. The type of goal that you would expect from a goal scorer. This was a shooter's goal. He gets the puck just to the left of the Ottawa net, and the puck's a bit of a scramble. He doesn't one-time it, but he just gets it, and he just buries it high over the shoulder of Linus Ullmark. Tough angle, not a terrible angle, but again, a tough angle, low on the circle, bottom half of the circle, and he just buries a wrist shot up high over top of Linus Ullmark. Again, the kind of goal you want to see from a goal scorer like Cole Caulfield. This is the kind of goal you want to see from a guy who you hope will eventually become your team's best sniper. Again, people will say that we're all homers, but again, this is a guy who, certainly has the capacity to score 40 goals or maybe even 50 one day, and this is the kind of goal you'll expect to see from him if he ever reaches that ceiling. So that was it for the first period. The shots in the first period were 7-4 for Montreal. The Canadiens go into the first intermission with a 2-0 lead, and then in the second period, they manage no goals. There's a scoreless third period. I would say that the shots in the second period were certainly dominated by Ottawa, 12-4. However, I don't think that was really indicative of the play. I thought the Canadians certainly didn't look as bad as the shots would suggest in that second period. But yeah, both teams are scoreless in the second period, so we head into the third. Again, tied. With a 2-0 lead for Montreal going into the third period. Midway through the third period, we get a goal from Alex Newhook, assisted by, again, Lane Hutson and Caden Gooley. Lane Hutson, again, the best player on the ice for either team. I'm sorry if that makes me a homer or not. I have tried to soft pedal my Lane Hutson praise just because of that fact that, people are probably getting tired of hearing it. But again, best player on the ice tonight. On this situation, Hudson carries the puck around in the defensive zone. He's frustrating Ottawa Senators players. At one point, Brady Tkachuk is chasing him around the ice like like somebody said the other day, like Rocky chasing the chickens in the Rocky movies, and he's trying to hit Hudson and he can't get a piece of him. Hudson ends up feeding the puck to Alex Newhook, who just buries a wrist shot from the just outside the hash marks over Linus Ullmark's shoulder. A great shot again. And then finally, the Canadians, Ottawa gets on the scoreboard. They make it 3-1 on a goal from Tim Stützle, assist from, I almost said Keith Tkachuk, from Brady Tkachuk. Again, a nice shot by Stützle. He's a sniper. I don't think he's played up to his abilities the last little while. I think last year was a bit of a struggle for him. I haven't really followed him so far this season. I don't know that was his first goal of the season or not. But again, a really nice shot, high stick side on Montembeault. Montembeault allows his first goal of the season. And again, Stützle being Stützle, got a mean mug Brendan Gallagher on the bench after the goal. Again, your team's down 3-1. I don't quite get that. Maybe it's a German thing. I don't know. But I just don't understand, why you would, down 3-1 in the third period, why you would think that was an opportunity for you to show off or to try and show up one of your opponents. I don't quite buy that. I don't get it. I understand it. Anyway, shortly thereafter, the Canadians put the game away. They go up 4-1. Another goal by Cole Caulfield, his fourth of the season, his fourth in 3 games. Not quite the sniper goal of the last one, but again, Slavkovsky gets the puck to Caulfield. They're coming out of their own end. Caulfield feeds Suzuki, who's ahead of the play. Suzuki goes in all by himself. He goes in on the goal. He goes in on Ullmark's. Not able to beat Ullmark, but Caulfield, smart player that he is right on Suzuki's tail, and he's there to put in the rebound as soon as Ullmark makes a save. There's no opportunity for Ullmark to control or clear the rebound, and Caulfield just comes in and just puts the puck in the net. And the score is 4-1, and that's pretty much it. At that point, Ottawa had pretty much given up on the game. They didn't really seem to be into it too much. They weren't that interested in trying to come back, and Montreal was more than happy to ride out the rest of the game, and that's exactly what they did. So you've got a final score here of 4-1 for Montreal. Let's have a look at the stand by here. We'll have a look at the rest of the score, the box score. We've got 25 shots on goal for each team. The Canadians dominated in the face-off circle, 55% or 54.5%. The power play, the Canadians 1 for 4, Ottawa 0 for 4. So the Canadians, again, were perfect on the penalty kill, managed to score another power play goal. 17 hits apiece. So I guess the Canadians kept their own as far as the physical side of the game was concerned. 22 block shots for Montreal. I thought that was another thing that they did quite well tonight. I thought that they did a really good job of getting into those shooting lanes, and I thought that they did a really good job, especially Caden Gooley, who, by the way, finished the game with 6 shots blocked. Which, is a pretty impressive number. I don't think anybody else in the game had more than 2. So, again, that was a pretty impressive performance from Caden Gooley. So, what's going on, gang? I see you guys in the comments. I see Frank there. It's going well. And I see Hunter. How are you doing, Hunter? Thank you for coming in and checking things out. We're going to move on now. We do what's called the A team. And the A-team is basically Recliner Sports' version of the 3 stars of the game. Instead of picking 3 players, we pick 4, and it's in honor of the great 1980s television show, The A-Team. So tonight, I don't think there's going to be any surprises here. Again, it's Lane Hutson. And again, everybody wants to, everybody's dying to see Lane Hutson fail or take a step backwards or reach that point where he no longer can compete at whatever level he is at. But he hasn't reached that yet, right? He's not anywhere near that point. He has shown at every level that he's able to play in the NHL. He did well in the preseason. He did well last year in the 2 games against Detroit. And so far this season, he's proven that he is just as good as advertised, if not better. He is performing on the defensive side of the game and on the offensive side of the game. He's every time he's on the ice, he's making things happen offensively. And again, he's not being a liability on the defensive side of things as so many people have sort of hoped and expected he would. All the, opposing players think, oh, well, he's not going to be able to play at that size and blah. Well, he has, and yeah, there's, he's not perfect. There were a couple plays tonight where he coughed the puck up. And he made a couple. There was one bad pass on the power play where he gave up the puck and whatever. But his motor is always going. Even when he gives up the puck, he fights to get it back. And I think that he just, again, the best player on the ice by either team, probably arguably in all 3 of Montreal's games so far this year. But certainly tonight, I thought he looked really, really good. He's feeling more comfortable on the ice by each game, and he's doing more and more and more. Especially, like his style of game is, I mean, you want to call it a high-risk style of game, but from him it doesn't appear to be that high risk, right? Like if anybody else was trying to do some of the things that he does with the puck, on the blue line when he's the last man back, you might say that was a risky play, but for whatever reason, his hands seem to be pretty solid, and he doesn't tend to make those mistakes that lead to opportunities for the other team very often. So the second member of our A-team tonight is Cole Caulfield. Again, we talked about it a minute ago. Last year, some people would argue that his goal total was a little bit disappointing at just 28, and maybe it was to a certain degree, but it's he seems to have his scoring touch back, and the reality last year was that he still was getting a lot of opportunities, but his shooting percentage was decreased significantly, and he just wasn't finishing the way he's capable of last year. And this year, he seems to be getting those chances, but he also seems to be finishing them. And 4 goals in 3 games is a good sign for every Montreal Canadiens fan who has been waiting for Cole Caulfield to become that elite goal scorer that he was at the USN DTP, the National Team Development Program, that he was in college. They've been waiting for him to become this guy, and certainly he's again, 28 goals is nothing to sneeze at. But again, tonight 4 goals in 3 games. This is the kind of goal scoring threat that you were hoping and expecting to see from a guy like Cole Caulfield, and it's fun to watch, right? And it's fun to see the smile on his face. He's got a personality. If you watch the game, he was named the first star of the game at the Bell Center. Talking French to the crowd, big grin on his face, ear to ear. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde, all that kind of stuff, and really ingratiating himself to the Montreal fans. And I think we're looking at a guy who's going to be a fan favorite and a star in Montreal for a long time. Third member of our A-team, again, for the second time in 3 games. Well, really the second time in 2 games for him, because he's only played the 2 games, and he's been played a starring role in both of those games, is Samuel Montembeault. We did finally see him get scored on for the first time this year after however many shots, 46 plus probably another 15 or so, probably 60-some shots before he let in a goal. Again, no goal to be ashamed of. It was a great shot by Stützle. I'm sure he would rather have saved it, but again, it wasn't like he let in a weak one. He was very, very solid throughout the game. Didn't get a ton of work early on in the game, but when he did, he was certainly there to make the saves that needed to be saved. And then in the third period, I thought that there were points early in the third period especially, or midway around the midpoint of the third period, where Ottawa seemed to get a few more chances on net. They started to put a little bit of pressure, and there were a couple of really good scoring opportunities that there were a couple of really good scoring opportunities that Montembeault just shut down. There was one shot from the right from the hash marks, a one-timer, and he just came across the crease and made a really, really great save. So Montembeault, again, you always want to try and follow up a big game like the season opener against Toronto with another good performance, just so for yourself and for the fans and for everybody that it's not a fluke, right? You didn't just come out and have one really great game. That this is who you really are and this is what you're capable of doing. And he certainly demonstrated tonight that that's what he's capable of. And those of us in Montreal who've been following this guy know he is a better goalie than what the numbers would tell you, or certainly the normal stats would tell you. The advanced stats are really good on this guy, and he is a fantastic goaltender. And hopefully he will get an opportunity to continue showing that. And again, I know this might be early to be talking about this, but in Montreal they're talking about, is this the guy for the Four Nations Cup? Is this the guy for the Olympics? And I think it's probably a little bit early to talk about that, but he's certainly trending in the right direction if that is a goal or an ambition of his. And finally, Alex Newhook, the fourth member of our A-team. I'll be honest with you, I actually had Newhook on my A-team. I had the graphic ready to go with Newhook's name on it before he scored the goal. Scoring the goal obviously puts the cherry on top of it, but I thought he had a really good game even before that. His skating was fantastic, as it always is. He's a really good skater, very quick to the puck, winning battles on the boards. There was the situation where he's forechecking on Brady Tkachuk deep in the Ottawa zone behind the goal line. And he out skates and out hustles Tkachuk to the puck, battles him along the boards, takes the puck and gets away from Tkachuk. And as he does, Tkachuk takes a penalty. Canadians get a power play. But that's the kind of thing he was doing all game. I think it's the strength of his game, right? It's the reason why we were also excited to see him play on a line with Doc and Lina before Lina got hurt. The idea that here's a guy who will go and retrieve the puck, right? He'll go and get those. Those loose pucks along the boards. He'll win. He's not the biggest guy, he's not the strongest guy, but he hustles and he works hard, and he's a great skater. And so, he's the kind of guy that will go in and get those pucks in the corners and feed guys like Doc and Lina. And I think it'll be exciting to see where Newhook goes. And again, fingers crossed. He's playing healthy for the first time since he really became a Canadian, right? Last year he missed quite a bit of games with injury, and so this is the kind of player that I think they were hoping to get when they traded for him with Colorado. So that's our A team for tonight. And the final thing that we're going to go through before we maybe take some questions from the chat, if anybody is in the chat. If you're in the chat, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're here. We're going to go through our report card here real quick. It's actually a pretty easy report card to go through tonight. So this report card is what we do here at Recliner Sports. This is sort of our way of looking at whether or not the Canadians had a good game or not, right? In a rebuilding team, sometimes wins and losses aren't the best way to determine whether a team is doing well or whether they're on the right track or whether they're on the right course. Sometimes you've got to look beyond that. Sometimes you've got to look at a little bit more than that. And what we've done is, what I've done is I've created this list of items that we check off after every game to see whether or not we think that Montreal had a good game. Because, realistically, there could be games where they lose, but they've played well. And it's a positive game for a rebuilding team. And there could be games where they win, and we might look negatively on certain aspects of the game. For instance, if they win a game 7-6, they're not going to check off all the boxes on here. So the boxes that we do have here is score 3 or more goals and allow 3 or fewer goals. So the common thought in hockey is that if you score more than 240 goals, you have a pretty good chance of making the playoffs. If you allow fewer than 240 goals, you also have a pretty good chance of making the playoffs. And if you do both of those things, if you have more than 240 goals and you allow fewer than 240 goals, the chances of you making the playoffs are really, really quite strong. And it's a rare case that you're not in the playoffs if you meet both of those requirements. So what we try to do is we look at every game and do they score more than 3 goals? Of course, 3 goals being 240 divided by 82, approximately 3 goals per game. So tonight, of course, 3 goals. Montreal scored 4. They win the game 4-1. So they accomplished both of those goals. They scored more than 3 and they allowed fewer than 3. So again, both positives. They get check marks for both of those categories. The third option, or the third box that they check off tonight, is special teams. 1 for 4 on the power play. Again, their power play hasn't looked spectacular yet, but again, they've got 3 goals in 3 games. They were able to put a power play goal on the board. That's not something that has always been something we can take for granted with this team, right? Over the last several years, there were many nights where they went 0 for on the power play. So tonight they go 1 for 4, and on top of that, they killed all 4 of Ottawa's power plays. So 4 for 4 on the penalty kill, so they're 100% on the PK, and they're 25% on the power play. That's a check mark every night of the week on my books. I'm going to give them a check mark for that all day long. Consistent effort and compete. I thought they played well all game. I think that maybe the first 10 minutes or so, I thought Ottawa maybe carried the game a little bit. Montreal seemed to be chasing them around. I think I put in my notes something along the lines of Ottawa's playing hockey and Montreal is reacting to them. But after that, they were the better team. I think just from top to bottom, they were the better team. They finally got their skates underneath them, and they started playing their game. And for the final 55 minutes of the game or so, I thought they just carried the play. They were they competed at a higher level. They battled. They skated hard. Everything went really, really well. And I thought it was a pretty even and consistent performance from beginning to end. Discipline. I thought that what did they take? They took 4 penalties tonight. I thought that the Barron penalty, I believe it was, there was an interference penalty that Barron took, was a weak play. A guy for Ottawa dumped it in the zone, and as he was skating in the zone, Barron decided to ride him out. I think it was Barron. Let me check my notes here just to be sure, so that I'm being fair and I'm not calling anybody out unfairly. Let's see here. Penalty High Kachuk. Penalty Zub. Yeah, there it is. Penalty JB52. So Justin Barron, bad penalty. Also a bit of a soft call from the referees, if I'm being honest. So the Senators player dumps the puck in the end, and as he's skating by to go retrieve the puck, Barron, kind of rubs him out a little bit along the boards. Again, unnecessary, didn't have to do it, but the call was kind of soft, if you're asking me, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there. And so the rest, I don't think there was any real egregious lack of discipline in the game tonight. We had the double minor, Emil Heineman, got into it in front of the net with Cleven or whatever his name is. So, but I thought it was a pretty evenly balanced game as far as the discipline goes. And finally, enjoyment, right? Are the boys having a good time? And that might sound a little bit wishy-washy to a lot of fans, but I think that's an important thing on a rebuilding team, right? The Canadians have talked at length. Marty St. Louis talks at length about building an atmosphere and an environment where people like to play hockey and have a good time. And, Saturday night at the Bell Center, it doesn't get any better than that, but, everybody had smiles on their faces tonight. Now, that's something that will come when you win, I guess, but again, everyone seemed to be having a good time. Cole Caulfield leading the way, grinning ear to ear, like I said earlier. I think this team enjoys playing hockey. They have fun. And when they're having fun, I think they're a much better hockey team. So I'd certainly give them a check mark in that category. So again, it's a clean sweep tonight. I think this was the best game Montreal played so far this year. The first 2 opponents were, quite a bit stronger than Ottawa is. I think Ottawa has the capacity to be a much better team, but tonight they certainly didn't show that. And I thought that this, like I said earlier at the top of the live, this was a team that Montreal can compete with. This was a team that when they go out there, this is a team that they say to themselves, we should beat this team. And that's the way they need to feel going into a game against Ottawa, right? This is a team that we can beat, and this is a team that we should beat. And tonight they did that, right? And there were a lot of, when you're a rebuilding team, you can't always accomplish that. And there were a lot of times in the last 2 years where they went up against teams that they should beat and just laid an egg. And they didn't do that tonight. I thought there was, good performances up and down the board. Like I said, we had our A team. What do we have? Hudson, Caulfield, Montembeault, and Newhook. I think certainly Caden Gooley probably would have been deserving of a spot on the A team as well. 6 block shots, that's pretty impressive. And I thought they looked really good. So again, a great performance by the guys, great performance by the team. I don't think there's anything really that stands out that really, really bothers me. But I think the one thing that I do want to talk about is Lane Hudson. If you're not a Habs fan and you haven't had an opportunity to watch Lane Hudson play, again, I'm not getting, I'm not here just to glaze or to praise or to whatever Lane Hudson. Like, this guy is doing it, right? I could get before that people thought it was a little bit much. Oh, here's a prospect and the Canadians are blowing another prospect out of proportion, and the Canadians always think that their guys are going to be the best and whatever. And, we were, a lot of people, and again, I admit it, there's a lot of Canadians fans that were giving things to Lane Hudson before he had earned them, right? Like, well, even last year, Lane Hudson's going to be the greatest of all time. Well, we don't know that yet. It's early yet, but I will tell you right now, tonight, he was the best player on the ice on either team, and it wasn't even close. Like, people watch him, and, he plays a style of hockey that's pretty unique. I don't think there's really been anybody that does some of the things that he does. And a lot of people think that it's just like superfluous movement and he's just, dancing all over the place and it's not achieving anything. It's achieving something, right? When he does that, he's buying time for himself and he's buying time for his teammates, right? He's not just dancing around with the puck, looking at the ice, not paying attention. He's dancing around with the puck and he's making time for himself and he's making time for his teammates and he's looking around. And as he's dancing around, he's looking to see if players are getting open or not. And when they do, he hits them with a pass on the tape nearly every time. And again, I'm not here to try and, overblow this. I'm not saying that his trajectory or that his path will continue to be linear and that it'll be all perfect. I'm sure there will be bad games and I'm sure there will be setbacks and he's not going to just sort of, continue to be awesome all the time. But right now, this kid, in the short sample size that we have of his career, is going to be a star. And unless something serious happens and changes, I don't see that not happening. So that's pretty much it for now. I don't know how many people are in the chat. What is it telling me here? It's telling me that there are 2 people in the chat, maybe. I don't know. If you're in the chat and you have any questions, you can talk about the Canadians. You can talk about tonight's game. You can talk about anything else in the NHL if you want. We can talk about any other hockey topic you like. Again, I know Hunter was in here earlier. I see Frank, who was in here earlier. Let's see who else is in here. Is there anybody else in here right now? Well, there's nobody in here. Maybe I'll keep chatting and see if anybody else comes in. I don't know if anyone's going to come in. Let's talk a little bit about Josh Anderson. I know that might seem like a bit of a weird topic to talk about, but I thought Josh Anderson had another good game tonight. I thought he's had I think he's been good in all 3 of the games so far this season. I thought he was good against Boston. And I thought he was really good against Toronto. In fact, I named him one of the members of the A-team in the game against Toronto. But I think that we're at the point now where there's something going on with Josh Anderson as far as his offensive abilities are concerned. I don't know that there was a scenario today during the game tonight where he gets the puck on a long breakout pass at the Ottawa blue line, and he's not in all alone. It's not a breakaway situation, but it's like a near breakaway situation. And he literally looks like he's handling the puck with oven mitts on. Like he just can't control the puck, and he doesn't have any type of offensive like we talk about players who have great hands. He seems right now to be the opposite of that. And I don't know what the proper terminology would be, but he literally, offensively, he just looks lost. But again, and this isn't a discredit to him because, like I said, I think he's had 3 really good games. He's skating, he's hitting, he's killing penalties. well, he struggled a little bit on one of the penalty kills tonight, and he certainly struggled at the end of the game when they had the empty net, made a couple of bad decisions. But like he's forechecking, he's doing a lot of that kind of the stuff, but offensively, he just doesn't have it. So I don't know if anybody else has noticed that. Again, I'm not criticizing the guy, and I'm perfectly happy to have him continue to play the way he's played on the fourth line, because I think he's a credit and he's a benefit to the team in other ways. But his offensive game is just it just seems to be disappeared right now. So what's going on, Frank? Welcome back. Do I think he's lost his mojo? I honestly don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's an injury scenario. I don't know whether it's a confidence scenario. I don't know whether it's I honestly don't know what it is. He kind of reminds me a little bit of the way Gallagher looked like, sort of at the beginning of last year, when he was probably still recovering from his broken hand, and he just had a hard time holding the stick properly, and you just breaking your hands or breaking your wrist, those types of injuries will have long-term impact on your ability to handle the puck. And I don't know whether that's what we're talking about but like I said, his offensive acumen, and these are things that he did have at one time. Right? Like, it's not like we're talking about a guy like Ryan Reeves who never really had any type of offensive ability, or some other players who just were big, strong, physical guys who just never really were able to do much with the puck. This is a guy who could do that at one point, and he just doesn't seem to have it anymore. So, do you have any other questions, Frank? I know that I don't think there's very many people in the chat right now. I don't understand why. I don't know how we get people. I don't know if you can tap the like button or anything. I don't know if that does anything in here, Frank, if you can maybe attract some more people into the room. We did have a bunch of people on our first episode of Habs After Dark, but the last two have been a little bit slower. If you have any questions, fire away. I don't know, you're usually big on asking questions in the TikTok lives, Frank. I don't know if the cat's got your tongue here tonight or not, but fire away if you like. If not, you thought Dvorak looked not too bad tonight? Yeah, I think he had some good moments. I think that whole line had some good moments. Kapanen was a little bit quiet, particularly I think in the second half of the game. He didn't see much of him, but yeah, I thought that third line was okay. I thought they skated well, and they had some really, I think I marked in my notes a couple times that they had some good plays. The assist on Heineman's goal from Dvorak was nice. He put the puck in front of the net. I want to check, actually. So they didn't actually give Hudson an assist on Heineman's goal, but I suspect that they might change that. Have they done that yet? No, they still don't have an assist for Hudson on the Heineman goal. But yeah, I thought Heineman, Dvorak, and Kapanen looked fine tonight. I kind of wish they'd let Kapanen loose a little bit just to see what he can do. But I get it, right? I don't want to rush him either. And, certainly we've seen other players start out young with the Canadiens who haven't, been the best early on. But everybody picks on Primo, but I think you've got to give him a few games to get his game going. What do you think? I agree with that. I don't think that Primo had a very good game against Boston. What was it, on Thursday night? So yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, Canadiens fans are tough, right? And even the media, like Tony Marinaro, I don't know if you saw the rant that he went on about Primo, about how he's giving up on Primo, which I think is ridiculous coming from somebody who actually watches hockey for a living, and this is what he does. Like, the idea that he would, I mean, I don't know if you've seen it before, but if you haven't, go check it out. I mean, but Marinaro has I think he tries to be bombastic sometimes just for viewership's sake, but yeah, I think there's still life left in Primo, and the reality is he's going to almost certainly be the backup goalie on this team for the whole year. So, if you don't like him, you better get used to him. He's certainly shown in the past that he's capable of good things. I don't think that he's shown that he's good enough on a consistent enough basis yet to be considered a, contributing goalie in the NHL. But certainly he played great in the, sort of the last 20, 25 games of last year once the the Jake Allen trade was made, I think you could argue that he was better than Montembeault at the last 20 or 30 games of last year. So, yeah, I mean, Marinaro, I like Marinaro. I respect what he's done. Marinaro has built an empire for himself, and he, is a really, he's gone, basically from being a fan. Like, he's basically gone from being, like I am right now, sitting in my basement talking about the Montreal Canadiens. He went from that to a guy who now has, several years under his belt as, on TSN 690. Now he's on BPM Sports. He has his own podcast, which is popular, and he gets, high-level guests, and he does all this stuff. But at the end of the day, Tony Marinaro, like a lot of those guys who are doing, radio and whatever, they're looking, sometimes they go overboard a little bit in the interest of trying to get, a little bit more viewership and a little bit more people watching their show, right? Tony, again, I don't want to be high and mighty and pretend that I know more about hockey than somebody else, but a lot of the things that Tony often says make me question where he's coming from, and the idea that you're quitting on, you're giving up on Caden Primo based on one bad game is beyond ridiculous for somebody who does this for a living. I get it. Primo hasn't proved, I guess it depends on what you're giving up on. Like, if you're giving up on whether or not Caden Primo is going to be a number one goalie in the NHL or a number one goalie for the Montreal Canadiens, well, yeah, maybe that ship has sailed. But, certainly if you're giving up on him as a goalie in general and the idea that he has anything to bring to the team, I think that's kind of crazy. So I thought our defenseman looked not too bad tonight, played pretty solid in front of Montembeault. Yeah, I thought I agree with that. I thought the Canadiens' defense played better tonight than they did last night. I thought they were better in their own end. They did struggle a little bit in their own end early in the game, first 10 minutes or so. I thought they were running around a bit, chasing the Senators, similar to what they did against Boston. But again, I think they helped out Montembeault a lot tonight. I think, like I said earlier, I don't know if you were here, Frank, when I was talking about Caden Gooley. 6 block shots for Caden Gooley tonight. That's a pretty impressive number. What were the block shots total for the whole team? Let me just check here. 22 block shots for Montreal tonight, right? So 22 block shots for Montreal, only 11 for Ottawa. So I think that helped a lot. And I think they kept the puck away from Montembeault quite a bit. They kept the high scoring chances to a minimum. And when Ottawa did get their chances, Montembeault was more than ready for them, especially late in the game. I think there were a couple of good scoring chances late in the game when, Montembeault could have faltered, and he, absolutely did not. So it looks like you're the only person in here, Frank. So if you have any more questions, I'm happy to keep them going and maybe see if we can get some more people in. Maybe you can hit the heart button. I don't know how you see how to do that. You can just hit the heart button here. I don't know whether that attracts people to the room the way it does on other platforms or not. But if you have any more questions, Frank, hit me with them. Otherwise, I think we might – I don't want to call it a night just yet. It's still early, but if you don't have any more questions, I kind of feel silly just sitting here. I wonder if they're going to let Mailloux play an NHL game. He had 4 points for the Rockets. Yes. Well, he has played NHL games. They let him play NHL games last year. I think they brought him into camp this year hoping that he would make the team. I don't think he performed at the level that he needed to for him to make the team. He certainly, his ability to play in the American Hockey League, I don't think is in doubt at this point. Last year, he was the top scoring defenseman amongst rookies in that entire league, and I believe he was 4th or 5th amongst all defensemen in the league. I think he had 43 or 44 points, something like that. So obviously 4 points is an impressive debut, and if he continues on that pace, they're going to have no choice but to try something with him and see whether he wants to have another shot with the Canadiens. But I don't think it's any secret that he's capable of being a high level performer at the American Hockey League level, and I'm glad to see that he's gone back down there. In probably, what certainly has to be a disappointing situation for him, right? I'm sure that his goal was to make the Canadiens coming out of training camp, and that he certainly didn't want to go back to Laval and have to ride the bus and, do all that stuff, and that he wanted to sort of start his NHL career. And, he hasn't gone back and sort of moped and been a sook about it. He, went out the first night and sent a message, right? He sent a message to everybody in the Canadiens organization, right? I'm ready for the NHL. You can keep me down here in the American Hockey League, but as long as you do, I'm going to continue to dominate it. So, yeah, I mean, that's what you would expect from him. That's what you would hope for a guy who you want to be part of your team in the future. That's what that's what I would want to see from him. I mean, if I'm Marty St. Louis, I'm looking at that and saying, that's perfect. Like, that's exactly what we want from you. Keep it up. What do you got, Frank? That it or what? I mean, I'm not trying to pressure you. I get that you can't necessarily stay here on the internet all night long, but I thought the goalie for the Ottawa Senators got surprised by Cole's first goal. Yeah, I think so. I think, again, Cole's got a quick release, and the puck was a little bit scrambly, and, maybe he thought that Caulfield was going to, have to settle the puck down a little bit before he could get a real shot away, and I think he probably got it away a little bit quicker than Ullmark was ready for. And then, of course, the placement of the shot. And, I always wonder sometimes when they take shots like that, how much of it is just like I'm firing the puck at the net, and how much of it is they're really aiming for a spot. In that particular scenario, I have my doubts as to whether or not, I think he was probably trying to go high with the puck, but, sometimes you get lucky. And when you're a great shooter, you get lucky more often than some other people do. But Caulfield, again, if Caulfield is shooting the puck like that for the whole year, I think we're in for a fun season from Mr. Caulfield. I think it's going to be. I think we're in for. Again, it's 3 games into the season, and I don't think you can draw any conclusions at this point. But certainly, we're looking at the beginnings of great seasons for. Both Caulfield and Hudson. I think it looks that way to me. Just me and you, Frank. It really looks like Slowinski. Are you talking about Slavkovsky, Frank? I don't know who you mean by Slowinski. I think you probably mean Slavkovsky, so I'll talk about Slavkovsky. If you mean somebody else, you can pipe in and tell me who you really mean. But, I think Slavkovsky's probably struggled a little bit. I think he's at a bit, I think he still struggles to figure out what he is on this team. I think Suzuki has struggled as well, if I'm being honest. But is he the playmaker, or is he the sniper, or is he both? Because he can be both, but he has to accept that he's both. There was one play, I think, where he was coming in the left-hand side, and I believe it was Suzuki that was, to his right, and it was sort of like a 2-on-1 scenario, but not like a full 2-on-1, like a 2-on-1 inside the zone kind of scenario. And, he had a good chance to take a shot. And, he tried to pass it, even though, the pass was kind of being taken away by the defender for Ottawa. But he decided to try and, to pass the puck anyway. And I think, he would have had a really good scoring opportunity if he had just taken a shot. So, I think you're right. He hasn't looked amazing just yet. But, I think that the team has done well without his contributions up till now, or without his full contributions up till now. And I think, Slavkovsky's the kind of guy who, once he finds his game, he can be a pretty scary guy. So you have the exact same jersey, the Jack Eye jersey. All right, I think that's going to be it for tonight, Frank. I really appreciate you sticking by, and I appreciate your questions. I think we're going to shut it down here. However, hopefully next time we'll be able to get more people in here. Everyone keeps telling me, oh, we want you to go live. We want you to go live. We're going to come check it out, and then they just don't. So But I do appreciate you for doing so, Frank. We are going to try and do these lives after every home game. It won't be every home game. Or sorry, not every home game. Every Canadiens game. I'm sure there will be games that I won't be able to do today. Actually, I'm a little disappointed at the turnout because I honestly wasn't going to do this live tonight just because I was out most of the day running around. And, there's a lot of work that goes into this. You got to prepare your graphics and you got to do all that kind of stuff before you can go live, which is why it sort of takes 10 or 15 minutes after the game before I can actually get started. But yeah, I do appreciate you for coming, Frank, and I know that Hunter was on earlier briefly. But again, maybe you can spread the word to the rest of the gang, Frank, about what what it's like and whether or not it's worth them checking out. So, we will be going live. I don't know when the next game is. I will tell you in 10 seconds. The Canadiens play next against the... who do they play next? They do not play tomorrow. I know that. They do not play. Oh, they play on Monday. Pittsburgh Penguins. So that game will be fun. We will try to go live after that game. Hopefully we'll have... Oh, there's Hunter's back. Your time just for the end of it, Hunter. Unfortunately, you missed most of the live, but we're getting ready to shut things down. We had hoped to take some questions from people in the comments. And Frank and I had a little chat, just the two of us. But, unfortunately, we're ending the live here now. I wish you had been here earlier because I really would have liked to have talked to you a little bit about the Leafs and talked to you a little bit about the other games that went on tonight. Congratulations on the win, the big Leafs win. The Leafs are now 2-1. So that's it for tonight, guys. I appreciate you coming. Hopefully you'll check us out next time and you'll stick around for the whole live so that we can actually take some comments. Normally, like I said, we spend the first 15 minutes or so going over the game, and then we move on to questions and comments from the comment section, from the chat. And, So anyways, have a good one. I appreciate those of you for coming by. Thank you so much, Frank. You were the all-star tonight. I appreciate it, and we will see you all in the next one. Peace.
Hoffman, Monahan parked in front, Docs to Caulfield, fires, scores!